Okay, so this is actually the first piece of furniture that we've actually built in the cabinet since we've um, redone the workshop here. And we're gonna see how well this works now that we've got, kind of a bigger space here. This is still a pretty good sized cabinet. This is gonna be like a TV stand that's 4 foot long and about 34 inches or so high. So we're gonna try and see if the space works out pretty good for us or not. And hopefully it does, because if it doesn't, then I got a problem. Okay. Give me one of the other glue boxes was out. Did I do that right? Yeah, this is the side.
Yeah, because this one's the middle one.
Okay. All right, so. Did we get it all the way in there? Yep, there we go. Now the nice thing on this is, because we have such a big surface here, it's big enough now that it will line up the front and the back pieces perfectly, and I can still move it around and have space to keep working. We cleaned all these boards over, which are a little bit in the way, but we'll move those because we recut these. See, I can put the saw blade down
Oh, you
and move the fence over. And we have a much bigger surface here that we can actually use now to assemble cabinets. No, we need the outside piece. Actually, we did one thing backwards, but it's okay. We got to flip this around. Our dados don't line up. Better that we realized it now. And then after it dried, what this is going to be is, it's going to have space for extra,
like drawers.
well, it's going to have drawers on this side, 3 drawers, and then this side's going to have space for baskets to go in there. So that's why we've got a dado cut up here at 13 inches. And the dados need to line up. we're using pocket holes to actually assemble this. The nice thing about pocket holes is I bought a benchtop machine, actually. It's over there, but I built a cabinet for it. So that way, I can use that as a work surface too. The problem, of course, with a small workshop is you don't have a lot of space when you have a lot of equipment like I do. And so you have to maximize all of the space that you're using. And that's where pretty much my work surfaces double up as a machine. So you take the saw blade down and you've got a huge assembly space. And this is actually now, even with the Inventables in here, I actually have more space in here for putting together cabinets, which is crazy because of the way we've reorganized the workshop. This is production-wise, we're small. This is just me and my son. But we've gone through, we've planed boards this morning. We've designed some of our cutting boards and butcher blocks. Here, I'll let you finish that off. Let me show you exactly what else we've done. We're, with our CNC machine, we're actually getting our blanks done for butcher blocks. These are actually unique because we epoxy one side. Now, you can get cutting boards that people epoxy both sides, but technically you really don't want to do a cutting board and cut regularly on the epoxy. It will scratch it up eventually, and even though you use a food grade epoxy, it's still not good. So we're actually doing custom designs on one side, and the other side just gets oiled up. So you cut on one side and you use the other side for servers. And we've got a bunch of different ones that are in the works here. So, and even we're doing even a Valentine's piece. We're doing a Valentine's piece as well for a person. And you can see here, this is another one of these custom designs ones. This is actually my logo here on a helmet. So I've got to go through, paint in the colors, and then we'll start epoxying this. This is where it starts to get to be fun. I definitely love this. Got to make sure it goes in right since I've already made one mistake. It's rough when you start getting old. Working here, it's funny. We actually cut all of this out this morning on the table saw. This is where I'm still old school at building things. All these pieces, once we learn how, we can actually take a sheet of plywood, put them on there, it'll cut them out. It's just, I'm still kind of old school and haven't figured out how to do all that yet. And at some point, I feel like John Henry versus the steam engine. Yeah, he was being replaced by the steam engine and didn't want to stop. And I think in a way, that's me. Let me move this over a little bit so you can see a little bit more what we're doing. See, the drawers will end up going in here. So that's why we have our pocket holes on the inside here, on the top, on the bottom. So you don't actually see any of those. This is actually a oak plywood right now. It used to be about $39 a sheet when I first started.
Did you tell them how the difficulty of us finding it?
Oh, yeah.
There are 3 different Home Depots.
Yeah, and that's the hard part now is actually finding like oak plywood. And materials are getting to be more and more scarce and more expensive. This is about $70 a sheet. But here's the difference of me building it versus somebody else building it. Buying it already pre-made. This is actually 3/4 inch plywood. And when I say 3/4 inch plywood as opposed to particle board, it's cheaper, a lot cheaper, although not as cheap as it used to be. But it's got just a veneer on top of it. If it ever gets wet, or if the screws and things, if you buy stuff from IKEA, I call it like a one-time deal, because you take stuff from IKEA apart and try and move it to another place, it usually does not hold up well, because the screws are going to that particle board, which is basically like sawdust and glue. When I glue and put this together, it'll last a long time. The dresser I built, although it wasn't made out of plywood, it's actually solid oak, he's still actually using 30 years later. All right, so let's see what we got here. See. So you can see I've got more space than I ever had before. I couldn't do this on the old work table and stuff. So the only thing we have left now is we need to cut our cross member here, and the baskets will slide in there, and then we'll make a face frame on this, where this will have 3 dresser drawers. So this is like a full dresser that we're building. Cost wise, now here's where it gets interesting. The cost of this, one sheet of plywood, that's about $80. We used up the whole sheet. We'll need to get a piece of 1/4 inch plywood for the back of that. That's about $25 a sheet now. We only need about half of it, so that's, say, $12. Okay, so now we're up to about $82 of material on there. The rest of it will be actually solid oak. That'll be about 12 board feet roughly of oak that we'll use on here, and 12 board feet will be about $4 a board foot, so about 48. So this will cost me, material-wise, about $130, and some stain and some labor. But I can tell you one thing: this sucker will be here for a long time. Once we put the 1/4 inch piece of plywood on the back of this, that will lock it and keep it really, really strong. And we have a full piece of oak plywood that's going to be the top, and we'll take oak and go all the way around that bevel and put a little edge on it to make it look nice, and then stain it. I think it's going to be stained kind of a grayish color. So yeah, it's going to look good.